Two opposing gods, one of pure creation, the other of absolute destruction, forced to build a world together. Now, what if one immediately betrayed the other, sacrificing its own mind to imprison its counterpart and setting in motion a secret plan that would take thousands of years to unfold? Hi guys, my name is Jason, and I'm a fantasy author building a massive shared universe myself, so I love Brandon Sanderson and all of his cosmic conflicts like this. On this channel, we dive into the lore that inspires my own writing, and today we're heading into the world of Scadrial to unravel the story of preservation and ruin, two of the most fascinating and intertwined divine forces in the entire Cosmere. Now, after the shattering of the primordial force known as Adonalsium, I did a video on that recently, 16 new godlike beings or shards came into existence. Two of them, picked up by beings named Laris and Ati, were preservation and ruin respectively, and they were perfect cosmic opposites. Preservation's entire purpose was to maintain the status quo. It valued stability and seeks to keep things exactly as they are, frozen in time. This sounds good on paper, but it means that even a miserable, broken world is worth preserving. The shard's intent was so strong that its vessel, Laris, found it physically painful to cause harm or destruction, even if doing so would save more lives in the long run. This made him a protector, but a paralyzed one. Ruin, on the other hand, was the embodiment of entropy. It believed all things must fade, decay, and end. Without change, there can be no new life. Ruin isn't inherently evil, but it's a natural force like death itself. The tragedy is that its vessel Ati was once a kind and generous person, but over thousands of years, the shard's relentless drive to destroy twisted his nature. His belief in natural ending slowly warped into a ravenous desire for active, accelerated annihilation, turning a philosopher into a monster. These two polar opposites ended up in the same empty star system, locked in a stalemate. One couldn't create without the other's influence corrupting it, and the other couldn't destroy what didn't exist yet. Their only path forward was to work together, and that's where the trouble started. Preservation desperately wanted to create intelligent life, so we offered Ruin a deal, and like most deals with cosmic deities, it came with some serious fine print. They would create a world and its people together, but to do this, Preservation had to invest more of his own power into humanity, making them inherently more of him than of Ruin. This unequal investment was the key to the bargain. By giving a piece of himself away, Preservation made himself weaker than Ruin. This was the concession. He gave Ruin a built-in advantage on the condition that Ruin would one day be allowed to destroy everything they had created. Ruin agreed, knowing that his eventual victory was now guaranteed, and so the world of Scadrial and its people were born. But Preservation had no intention of letting Ruin win. He had exploited a loophole. Laris knew that while he had agreed Ruin could destroy the world, he never said when or how. And in a final desperate act of defiance, Preservation sacrificed to his own mind, pouring his consciousness into the creation of a prison to contain Ruin. He trapped Ruin's mind in a metaphysical cage known as the Well of Ascension, and he tore away most of Ruin's power, hiding it away so it couldn't be reclaimed. This act cost Preservation everything. His mind was shattered, leaving behind only an automated, instinct-driven power. But he had succeeded in balancing the scales. Ruin was trapped, and Preservation, though effectively dead, had set a new plan in motion. The only problem was this prison wasn't permanent. Ruin's prison was powerful, but it had a flaw. Roughly every 1,000 years, the Well of Ascension would fill with Preservation's power, and someone had to take up that power to reinforce the cage. If they chose to release it instead, Ruin would be free. Knowing this, Preservation laid the groundwork for Ruin's final defeat before his own mind completely faded. First, he gifted a set of prophecies to the Terrace people, a cryptic roadmap that would one day guide a hero to victory. Second, he created the Mists of Scadrial. These mists were designed to snap people, violently awaking their latent magical abilities, a power system called Allomancy, fueled directly by Preservation. His long-term goal was to create an army capable of fighting a god. But even from within his cage, Ruin could whisper. He began to subtly alter the prophecies, twisting their meaning to trick the future hero into releasing him. He couldn't erase the original text, only add his own corrupting influence, and for 1,000 years this cycle repeated. A hero would rise, take the power of the well, and reinforce the prison. But Ruin was patient. He just needed one person to make the wrong choice. By the way, I choose not to run ads in the middle of these videos, and I don't use sponsors or affiliates. This channel is entirely self-funded by my own work. However, I do have something you might enjoy, and that's my Fantasy All Access library. It's where you can get every fantasy book that I and my team have written, This is one of those books here. This is one of 8 books plus a short story. You get all the ebooks, and I've got the professional audiobooks about this as well. This is about a hero who creates essentially a new fantasy world, and you get the origins of various fantasy races. There's also some sprinkled in a little bit of like Adam and Eve and Cain and Abel mythology in there as well. So that whole series is in there. Plus you get every other fantasy book that I and my team have written, all set in a massive shared universe where every mythology coexists. It's how I'm able to keep making videos like this one, so if that sounds interesting, you can check out the link in the description. Now, Ruin's first real chance at freedom came from a hero named Alendi. The corrupted prophecies pointed to him, guiding him toward the Well of Ascension with the goal of releasing the power to save the world. But Alendi's own guide, a Terraceman, realized the prophecies had been tampered with. He sent his nephew, Rashek, to stop him. Rashek did more than stop him. He actually killed Alendi and took the power for himself. Instead of reinforcing the prison, Rashek decided to remake the world. Calling himself the Lord Ruler, he moved the entire planet, created mountain ranges, and genetically altered humanity to survive the ash that now constantly fell from the sky. He used his new divine knowledge to turn himself into an immortal god king and created monstrous creatures to enforce his 1,000-year reign. While he succeeded in keeping Ruin imprisoned, his actions gave Ruin new weapons. The Lord Ruler's imperfect use of the power left cracks in the prison, and Ruin exploited them. He twisted Preservation's life-giving mists into a terrifying force called the Deepness, a spectral fog that killed anyone it touched. The Lord Ruler had prevented one apocalypse only to unleash a slow, creeping one. His solution was, in many ways, worse than the original problem. Now, fast forward 1,000 years later, and a young street urchin named Vin found herself at the center of a rebellion to overthrow the Lord Ruler. Guided by corrupted prophecies, she believed she was the hero of ages, destined to save the world at the Well of Ascension. When she finally reached the well, she took up the immense power of preservation, and in that moment the ghost of a man named Cosmere, now aware of Ruin's true plans, screamed at her from another realm not to give her the power up. But then, tricked by Ruin's manipulations and believing she needed to sacrifice the power to save the man she loved, she let it go. In an instant, Ruin was free. The world began to literally fall apart. Earthquakes and volcanoes tore the land asunder, but Vin, now connected to the last vestiges of Preservation's power, realized what she had done, and what had to be done. Ruin's hidden power was a metal called atium. If it was burned away by Allomancers, his power would diminish, and in a final desperate act, Vin drew on the mists, ascended as the new vessel of Preservation, and fought Ruin directly. She managed to destroy him, but the act of killing a god killed her as well. In the aftermath, with both shards now without a master, a Terra scholar named Sazed found their bodies. He had spent his life studying the world's lost religions, trying to find the truth, and he realized that he was the true hero of ages. He took up the powers of both Preservation and Ruin, holding them in perfect balance. He became Harmony. Holding two opposing forces, Sazed gained the power to remake the world. Using the knowledge from his old studies, he moved the planet back to its correct orbit, healed the atmosphere, and restored humanity to its original form. He became a true god, one who valued free will, and gave his people the ability to choose their own path. But holding two fundamentally opposed intents, one to create and one to destroy, came at a cost. Sazed found that simple actions were nearly impossible. Any act that favored Preservation was fought by Ruin, and any act that favored Ruin was blocked by Preservation. He was a god in a straitjacket, essentially, forced to act through mortal agents because he could barely act himself. This is the great paradox of Harmony. To keep the peace between his two halves, he must do almost nothing at all. And there are terrifying signs that this balance is failing. An ancient prophecy hints that Harmony might one day become a new entity, Discord. Kelsier has seen a shadowy double of Ruin appearing behind Sazed, a sign that the more destructive half of his power is gaining influence. If Harmony falls and Discord arrives, the god who saved Scadrial could become the one who tears it apart. This internal conflict also makes him vulnerable. Other shards, like the enigmatic Autonomy, have already begun to test his defenses, seeing his paralysis as an opportunity. The story of Preservation and Ruin may have ended, but the struggle of Harmony is just beginning. This cosmic drama is a core part of what makes the Cosmere so compelling. It's not just about good versus evil, but about the unsustainable nature of absolutes and the high cost of balance. The apathetic stasis of Preservation and the all-consuming chaos of Ruin were both destructive in their own ways. Harmony was the answer, but it seems that even that is a temporary solution to an eternal conflict. If you enjoy diving into these massive intricate worlds, you should check out my Fantasy All Access library. It's a group on a platform called School where I give you all my fantasy books, both the ebooks and the audiobooks, all that I've produced for my own shared universe. And we also do weekly live calls where we discuss fantasy, writing, world building, etc. And you get at least one new novel from me every single month. It's a community for people who love epic stories like Sanderson's. And if you want to join us, the link is right below. And I'll see you in the next video.